The Democratic Republic of Congo is expected to hold talks with the UN mission in the country, Monusco, on the withdrawal of peacekeepers that will meet the demand of the people. The announcement comes after President Félix Tshisekedi chaired a meeting with the presidents of the two chambers of parliament, the Prime Minister and officials from the eastern North Kivu province.
Deadly protests demanding Monusco's expulsion erupted in North Kivu's capital Goma on 25 July and have since spread. Activists accuse the UN mission of failing to stop a decades-long rebellion in the east. A total of 36 people, including 4 UN peacekeepers, have been killed following the protests. Security forces dispersed fresh protests in Beni, North Kivu on Monday that disrupted activities in the region. Meanwhile, several people were injured as police dispersed anti-UN demonstrations in the northern Kivu province. A UN peacekeeping force has been in DR Congo for more than 2 decades. Monusco took over from a previous UN mission in 2010.
Well, for more on this, we're now joined by Channel Africa producer and especially Great Lakes analyst Nixon Katembo. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. Always good to talk to you. Nixon, it seems incredible that people would march and protest against people that are there to help them. Explain to us what's going on.
Yeah, I guess that tells much how the people are tired. They are tired of seeing their country being in chaos, in perpetual chaos, despite Monusco's presence in that country. 22 years since its existence there, and the guise of restoring peace and security, but also securing civilians, which has not been the case, where every day there are killings of civilians that happen in their country. Moreover, $1 billion a year to actually guarantee the operation of this peacekeeping mission. So it is in that context that the people feel fed up to the extent that they are protesting and demanding this mission to leave. And one can wonder the population to reach at that level, it means they have seen a lot. There are a lot that is happening in Eastern DRC, where Monusco also have been blamed for many of the things that are happening, especially with the ammunition distribution to armed group. This has been corroborated by many of the civil society organizations in the Ituri, North Kivu province and the South Kivu province, but many other issues that are happening but pertaining to Monusco.
Let me just get this straight. Are you saying that they were there to help protect civilians, but you're almost suggesting that they're part of the problem by supplying rebel groups with arms?
That has been the claim from civil society organization within those areas. This is not my claim. And that has fueled the resentment against Monusco, that you are here to protect us, but this is what we are hearing, or this is what we have seen you doing. And there has been a claim where even Monusco peacekeepers themselves saying that no rebel group, no job. In other words, the famous no Ngunda, no job by some Pakistani peacekeepers who were responding to a local journalist on why they are not dealing with the rebel group then. So in essence, Monusco brought this upon itself because it has not acted in a way that it was expected to act. Of course, we know that this falls under the mandate of Chapter 6 of the United Nations, or to the restoration of peace, but if need be, they would have applied Chapter 7, which speaks of a forceful restoration of peace. And we saw this happening with the M23 in 2013, after the establishment of the Force Intervention Brigade, which then assisted with the Congolese National Army to deal a blow with the rebel group. But as to what the Monusco is doing over the years, really, for me, I think it's for the United Nations itself, the United Nations Peace and Security Council, to evaluate that, hang on, for the past 22 years, what have been the success, what has been the failure, and how can we build on those failures to make sure that we create a rapport between the Congolese people who are our host and the kind of work that we do, so that there is no disjuncture or resentment against us. And I don't know whether Monusco itself is doing that. But judging from the statement coming from Jean-Pierre Delacroix, who is the head of mission and operation under the UN, he's saying, visiting Goma yesterday, he's saying that they are going to leave the country and after ensuring that the last village of the Congolese territory have gained the peace. But the question is, how are they going to do that if they had failed for the past 22 years that they have been in the country?
All right. So, you know, again, the responsibility for securing the state and keeping civilians safe surely falls on government and its army. They're the primary people responsible. Monusco, I would guess, after the democratic transitions of power, there should have been a support role, but the responsibility doesn't come away from the state, I'm guessing. So the question then becomes, is not the state not more responsible for the lives and safety of citizens?
Of course, that is the primary responsibility of the state, to look after its citizens, to protect the borders of that country. But you look at how the structure of the state have been established in the post-negotiated settlement of the Sun City and the Lusaka Accord that culminated into the election in 2006. Of course, after that, we saw the emergence of the rebel group, but the question is, was there security sector reform that was supposed to then speaks to the securing of the citizen? And I guess Monusco didn't assist in that regard, in as much as they said that they tried, but there were minimal work that had been done in that respect. But on the other hand, also, you have to look at within that security sector reform, the Congolese state is sanctioned by the very United Nations under the UN arms embargo. So if the country cannot secure its citizen, it's on the basis of these aspects that come into play. For example, the Congolese state cannot buy the necessary ammunition to fight the M23, because once it has to buy arms and ammunition and the kind of supply chain have to be communicated to the United Nations, and the United Nations, especially the Security Council, have to approve that. So in a way, it is setting up the country for failure. But I guess the current reemergence and the awakening of the Congolese people will set a new tone on how the Congolese state relate with the United Nations, and whether the United Nations will reevaluate its own work, whether it has been a success or a failure for the past 22 years. And I guess that's where we are now.
So let's assume Monusco does leave the country. Does that translate into citizens being safer? Because some of these rebel groups will carry on doing what they're doing regardless, and they might even think that life's easier now that there isn't a Monusco in the way.
What is the difference between the presence of Monusco currently and their absence if civilians are being killed all the time in the presence of Monusco under their nose? There is no difference really, whether they exist there or not. For the person who have been watching the DRC for quite some time, and the Greater Lakes region in a broader sense, you see that Monusco really seems to be not doing enough to protect civilians. And moreover, for me, who have been watching that movement of insecurity in that region, you would see that most of the time when the Monusco mandate is about to end, there are flare-up of insecurity. What justify that? And it's to say that some of these insecurities can be viewed and used as a caveat to justify the resort debt of the Monusco in that country. And for me, I think if Monusco leave, it's up now for the Congolese state to take charge of its own responsibility. And one would think that now it's the United Nations who will assist the Congolese in lifting the arms embargo and making sure that the country build its own security based on its own demands from the people, and making sure that they secure that country. And not only that, the Congo is rich enough, it can buy every arms under the sun if it is allowed to. And just recently I communicated with some people within the government. They wanted to buy a drone from the Turkish government, but the UN Security Council refused that those drones cannot be supplied. And those drones...
What is the fear that the UN Security Council has in terms of what the DRC authorities can or cannot buy? What are they scared would happen?
The fear had always been that they might end up in the arms of wrong people, rebellions. But the question is that if you allow a supply chain and control, and when there is a command and control within the national army, which have been structured, you are not necessarily going to end up. In fact, it's the government where you can trace that these arms have been delivered to particular government, such and such a company that delivered those arms. And through command and control, they can see how many have used, where they were used, and on what purpose. And this is what the UN is not allowing the Congolese state to do in terms of assuming its own responsibility in terms of security. The United Nations did not go to the DRC just after the war in 1999. The United Nations have been the DRC since independence in 1960. The question is, what have they done? Nothing really. And instead, that country continue used as a way of certain member states to enrich themselves. Remember, most of the aid that is sent to peacekeepers and the budget does not assist the Congo. If you place $1 billion a year to the Congolese state to better the lives of the Congolese, I think it will be making much more difference than having this peacekeeping force that is virtually doing almost nothing for the people of the Congo.
All right, well, let's wait and see what happens. But thanks very much indeed for joining us. Your thoughts are always greatly appreciated. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.
All right, that's one of our colleagues there, Nixon Katembo, who's a Great Lakes analyst and producer with our sister channel, Channel Africa.